Imagine, somewhere in the icy, impenetrable depths off the coast of Antarctica, in absolute darkness, under monstrous pressure and cold, there glides a creature that saw this world before dinosaurs appeared on land. It hasn't just survived since those times, it has hardly changed at all, as if time itself does not affect it. Meet the Chimaera monstrosa, or as it's commonly known, the Chimaera fish. At first glance, it might seem like just another strange deep-sea fish, one of many. But this is something entirely different. Scientists call it a living fossil. Its lineage dates back to prehistoric times, to creatures that inhabited the planet more than 400 million years ago. That's about twice as old as the first dinosaurs. And unlike most ancient creatures, which have long since gone extinct or evolved dramatically, the Chimaera seems frozen in time, as if someone had preserved its form forever to remind us just how ancient and resilient life can be. This is not just a rarity, it's an anomaly. The fact that it still exists in the modern ocean alongside sharks, mammals, and other products of evolution truly amazes biologists. The Chimaera seems to defy time itself, as if saying, I was here before you and I will remain after you. But what makes it so resilient? Why didn't it disappear when giant reptiles went extinct and entire ecosystems vanished? The answer lies not only in its structure and habits, but also in where it lives. And this is where things start to get truly frightening. Seeing a chimera for the first time is like peering into a dream you desperately want to wake up from. Its body is a strange, unsettling hybrid, as if assembled from the parts of different animals. Huge round eyes reflect the light of even the faintest underwater lamps. Fins that look more like wings, and a tail resembling a leathery ribbon or whip, as if belonging to some kind of subterranean demon. Many people who encountered a chimera for the first time described it as a creature from nightmares. But all of this is not just a frightening shell. Every detail of its body serves a purpose, honed by time. These eyes, for example, allow it to catch the faintest glimmers of light in absolute darkness, while its wings help it glide through the water almost without moving, so it doesn't waste energy. A rare skill in such harsh conditions. But the most terrifying part of its body remains the venomous spine located in front of the dorsal fin. At a touch, it can easily pierce the skin and inject its toxin. This spine is not a weapon for attack, but a means of defense. Even at depths where other creatures are rarely encountered, the chimera remains cautious. Life has taught it to defend itself. But what makes it hide? Why does it inhabit the most inaccessible corners of the ocean, far from sunlight, from the eyes of predators, and even from us, humans? The answer is hidden at the very bottom of the ocean, in places we almost never reach. Most people can't even imagine how hostile the ocean depths can be. In Antarctic regions, water temperatures can drop to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and the pressure is thousands of times higher than at the surface. There is absolutely no light, not a single drop. Eternal darkness reigns there, and any creature must either be a genius of adaptation or dead. That is exactly where the chimera lives. It is most often found at depths ranging from 1 to 5 miles below sea level. These are places that ordinary underwater vehicles can barely reach. Even modern technology cannot guarantee safety in such conditions. The pressure literally crushes any unprepared equipment. That's exactly why there is so little information about these creatures. We simply can't pay them a visit. But the chimera feels right at home in these conditions. Moreover, this is its natural defense. Like an ancient monk, it lives in seclusion, where nothing can disturb it. There are no competitors there, no sudden climate changes. There is stability there, something the surface world so sorely lacks. This isolation played a crucial role. It allowed the chimera to preserve its ancient traits without the need to change. Where other species disappeared, the chimera simply kept on living. It didn't evolve. There was no need to. Its environment has remained almost the same as it was millions of years ago. And it is in this very isolation that one of its main secrets lies. If you could live 100 years without aging, you'd want to know how to do it, wouldn't you? The chimera doesn't have a passport, but according to scientists, many individuals live for decades without showing signs of aging typical for other fish. Their skin doesn't thin, their eyes don't cloud over, their organs don't fail, everything works as if time doesn't affect them at all. The secret lies in the pace of its life. Deep-sea creatures live slowly. Their metabolism is extremely low. They don't need to move constantly, spend energy on keeping warm, or fight off external threats. It's as if they enter a constant state of conservation. And it pays off. In addition, the chimera has a unique DNA structure. Scientists began comparing its genome with other species and discovered that certain segments of the chimera's DNA are responsible for cell repair, that is, the restoration of damage. This process is incredibly efficient in the chimera. Cells age, but are restored to their original state, again and again. Of course, we're not talking about literal immortality, but by nature's standards, it really is almost immortal. And if we can understand how its body works, it could change everything, from medicine to anti-aging technologies. But the amazing part is only just beginning. After all, the Chimaera itself is not just an ancient long liver, it's a living fragment of time. When dinosaurs first set foot on Earth, chimeras were already in the ocean. They existed long before the first forests, before the appearance of birds, even before the formation of the modern continents. Their trace is not just a timeline, it's a direct thread to the very first vertebrates. Scientists have discovered that chimeras branched off from the evolutionary tree shared with sharks and rays more than 400 million years ago. Since then, their lineage has hardly changed. It's like finding an iPhone in ancient Egypt. It just shouldn't be there. But it is. And that raises a lot of questions. Why didn't they go extinct like their relatives? Why didn't evolution force them to change drastically? Perhaps it's because chimeras were so well adapted to their environment from the start that change simply wasn't necessary. Or maybe it's because their environment hardly changed and they were among the few who survived by hiding from the world. Either way, chimeras are not just fish. They are a repository of information, an oceanic time capsule that can show us what life looked like before our era. But there's only one way to look inside this capsule, by studying its body. And what's inside is incredible. If you think of the Chimaera as a machine created by nature, its design is both frightening and awe-inspiring. Not a single part of its body seems familiar. Let's start with something unusual, the poisonous spine. It's located on its back, just in front of the first fin. This spine can inject a toxin that causes severe pain even in humans. This is a rare trait for deep-sea fish, since aggression is almost unheard of in such conditions. But the Chimaera seems to say, "I'm quiet, but don't touch me." Another oddity is the absence of jaws with teeth in the usual sense. Instead of teeth, it has bony plates that it uses to crush its food. This is not just an anatomical quirk, but a key to survival. Such teeth do not break, do not wear down, and are perfectly suited for eating crustaceans and mollusks, which are abundant in the ocean depths. Its fins do not move like those of ordinary fish. They are broad, wing-like, and it is thanks to them that the Chimaera doesn't swim but rather glides through the water. This minimizes energy expenditure and allows it to hover in one spot for hours, either waiting for prey or avoiding danger. The brain deserves special attention. In chimeras, it is proportionally larger than in many other fish. Moreover, its structure is different from what we see in sharks or rays. Scientists are still debating how intelligent it is and how its perception works. Theories range from primitive instinct to specialized complex thinking. And now, the eyes. They are huge and lack pupils. When illuminated by an underwater camera, they begin to glow green. This effect is called. It's a special layer that reflects light back through the retina, increasing the chances of catching even the faintest glimmers in total darkness. Such a set of anomalies doesn't create a freak, but rather a perfect machine for surviving in hell. Everything about it is the result of a million successful decisions made by evolution. And each of these decisions takes us further and further from our usual ideas about fish. But even without teeth, it remains a hunter, and the way it does this is astonishing. When you hear toothless fish, your imagination conjures up something helpless, barely able to get food. But with the Chimaera, it's a completely different story. Its bony plates, which serve as teeth, resemble powerful millstones. They don't cut, they crush. Shells, carapaces, hard coverings, none of these are a problem for it. Hunting for the Chimaera isn't a swift attack like with sharks, it's all about patience. It slowly glides near the bottom, moving almost imperceptibly. Its sensory system detects the slightest movements in the water, and its electroreceptors sense the biofield of its prey. This is especially effective in complete darkness, where vision doesn't play the main role. As soon as the target is detected, the Chimaera moves in close and makes a lightning-fast lunge forward, grabbing its prey with its wide mouth and crushing it with its bony plates. A click and the mollusk shell bursts like paper. Everything happens silently. No splashes of blood, no panic. Only agility and efficiency. Interestingly, unlike most fish, the Chimaera's organs responsible for taste perception are underdeveloped. This suggests that it is guided not by taste preferences but by practicality. If something is nutritious, it will eat it. If not, it will swim right by. It also has an unusual skin covering. It's coated in a thick layer of mucus, which not only protects it from parasites but also makes it less noticeable to predators that rely on their sense of smell. This mucus is a biochemical shield that scientists are still studying for its antimicrobial properties. It doesn't need strength or speed. Its main weapons are silence, precision, and an ancient, time-tested strategy. But to ensure its lineage continues, it also has to pass on its traits to the next generation. Yet how exactly it does this is almost unknown to anyone. When it comes to reproduction, the chimera once again slips into the shadows. Its reproduction is one of the most mysterious subjects in modern marine biology. The reason is simple. It happens so deep that we can hardly see anything. But some things are known. Female chimeras lay eggs. This is unusual in itself, since many deep-sea fish give birth to live young and lay eggs in long leathery capsules that resemble cases. They slowly sink to the bottom, where they must remain for weeks and sometimes even months before young chimeras hatch from them. Males have a unique organ called a clasper, which allows them to hold onto the female in conditions of currents and limited space. The act of mating itself happens quickly but requires precision. And yes, it takes place in complete darkness without any visual contact. They rely on pheromones and weak electrical signals as guides. Scientists have only recently begun to find these eggs on underwater slopes off the coast of Antarctica. Some have even been brought to the surface, but so far, no one has observed the birth of a chimera in captivity. The conditions are too complex, the cycle is too long. This long and secretive process makes chimera reproduction vulnerable. Any changes in the environment, temperature fluctuations, or human interference can disrupt this fragile cycle. But it has continued to function for millions of years, without failures, without revolutions. And now imagine, all this time, not only life, but also the secret of eternal longevity is being passed on inside these eggs. If nature has a survival manual, then for the chimera, it is written in its DNA. When scientists gained access to the genetic material of these creatures, they were astonished. Some regions of their genome differ so greatly from those of other fish that they look like encrypted messages from the past. The main thing that interested biologists was their ability to regenerate. Research has shown that chimeras have active genes that, in other organisms, are either switched off or function ineffectively. We're talking about mechanisms for DNA repair, tumor protection, and control of cell division. Many species age because their cells accumulate errors. In chimeras, however, this system works with remarkable precision. Errors are corrected and damage is repaired. This isn't complete immortality, but the biological resilience is so high that even medical professionals are impressed. Some scientists are already proposing to use chimeras as a model for developing new life-extending drugs. If we can understand how these genes work, we might be able to apply this knowledge to humans. It sounds like science fiction, but research has already begun. However, there is one organ that has especially attracted the interest of biologists. And it's not just important, it's revolutionary. Inside the body of the chimera is an organ that may be more important than all the others. It's her nervous system. Strange, not quite like that of other fish. And within it lies one of the keys to understanding how an organism can survive and function in conditions that are almost completely cut off from the outside world. Let's start with the fact that the chimera has an exceptionally large brain compared to other deep-sea creatures. Moreover, its shape and structure are significantly different from those of sharks and rays. Some of its regions are greatly enlarged, especially those responsible for processing electrical impulses. This is no coincidence, since the chimera doesn't rely on vision. It needs to sense its prey and the surrounding world in a different way. It literally sees the electric fields generated by living organisms and not only reacts to them, it analyzes them. This requires powerful neural processing, almost on par with some mammals. Its olfactory lobes are also surprisingly well developed, hundreds of times larger than those of other fish. It can detect scents over vast distances despite the low temperatures that slow down chemical processes in the water. But what surprised researchers the most was the conductivity of its neurons. In laboratory conditions, biologists discovered that signals in its nervous system travel at an unusually high speed for a deep-sea animal. This may be the result of a unique structure of myelin, the substance that covers nerve fibers and speeds up signal transmission. It's also interesting how the chimera responds to stimuli. It doesn't panic or thrash about. Instead, it analyzes, assesses, and only then acts. Such behavior is unusual for fish living in extreme conditions. This made some researchers start to wonder, perhaps we are looking at one of the most cold-bloodedly intelligent fish on the planet. Neurobiologists have already begun studying the protein composition in its nervous tissue. These proteins are resistant to cold and pressure, which could help in developing new drugs for neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Its ability to remain active in conditions of almost zero oxygen is also being actively studied. After all, this could be applicable to the treatment of strokes and hypoxia. But the chimera is interesting not only for how it thinks, but also for how it doesn't change. And here is the next question that scientists are asking more and more often. Why has evolution passed it by? Catching a chimera is no easy task. It's not a fish you can just pull out with a net near the shore. Its habitat is the multi-mile depths with extreme pressure and complete darkness. That's why every specimen that ends up in the hands of scientists becomes almost sacred. To catch it, special deep-sea trawls or submersible devices with traps capable of withstanding enormous pressure are used. These operations often last for weeks and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even when the catch is successful, the Chimaera rarely survives the ascent. The difference in pressure is fatal. Nevertheless, a few specimens have been successfully delivered to laboratories, mainly in New Zealand, Norway, and southern Chile. Scientists study not only the tissues and organs, but also the microflora, mucus, genome, as well as behavior in a semi-living state. It is thanks to these rare cases that we have learned about its unusual DNA structure, the toxicity of its spine, its hunting mechanism, and the structure of its eyes. Models of neural pathways have been developed and comparisons have been made with the nervous systems of other ancient species. All the data confirm one thing: the Chimaera is not just a biological rarity, it is a potential treasure trove of new medical and biological discoveries. But the real sensation began when researchers seriously set out to study what makes the Chimaera virtually indestructible as a species. As it turned out, it's not just about genetics. The most shocking fact about this creature is that it has changed very little over hundreds of millions of years. Almost all other animals have undergone radical metamorphoses. Some developed wings, others lungs, still others fur and mammary glands. But the Chimaera, the same body shape, the same fins, the same organs. It's astonishing. From a biological standpoint, the lack of change means that the species turned out to be so perfectly adapted to its niche that evolution simply found nothing to improve. No catastrophes, ice ages, or temperature changes have displaced it. Scientists call this evolutionary stabilization. A species that has entered survival mode stops changing because all external threats are either eliminated or out of reach. This can be the result of extremely narrow specialization or unique environmental conditions where there is no pressure to change. In the case of the Chimaera, this is evident at every level, from anatomy to behavior. It lives slowly, safely, and efficiently. All of this together makes it a living symbol of stability. It's as if a person found a way to slow down aging, avoid war, hunger, and disasters, and simply lived in safety. But even in these ideal conditions, the Chimaera faces challenges. One of these challenges is the very environment it inhabits. Imagine 1,000 pounds pressing on every inch of your body, and that's every second for your entire life. This is the everyday reality for the Chimaera. The pressure at the depths where it lives ranges from 5 to 15,000 pounds per square inch. For comparison, even a modern submarine might not withstand such conditions. Add to that the near-freezing temperatures, complete darkness, and a total lack of quick food sources. In such conditions, most organisms simply can't survive. But the Chimaera doesn't just survive, it thrives. How does it manage this? First of all, it has no air cavities that could be compressed by the pressure. Its body is filled with dense tissue and gel-like structures. This reduces the strain. Secondly, its cell membranes are made of special fats that remain flexible even in extreme cold. Finally, its metabolism is adapted for minimal energy consumption. It doesn't move unnecessarily and doesn't hunt unless it has to. In addition, it has a unique type of blood. Studies show that it contains an unusually high concentration of proteins that protect cells from being damaged under pressure. These proteins could potentially be used in medicine, especially in the development of drugs that are resistant to extreme storage conditions. But the most interesting part is how all these biological features could be applied to humans. And this is where the real science of the future begins. When scientists talk about aging, they mean the wear and tear of cells, errors in cell division, accumulation of mutations, and protein breakdown, all of which, over time, lead to disease, weakness, and death. But the Chimaera seems to have slowed down or bypassed this process. Studying its genome has already made it possible to identify active regions responsible for DNA repair. In addition, her body lacks certain inflammation markers that are typical of aging tissues in mammals. This may mean that her immune system doesn't attack its own cells, as happens in humans during old age. These very properties have become the subject of study in a number of biomedical laboratories. Scientists are already developing models in which they try to introduce the Chimaera's genes into cultures of human cells. The goal is to learn how to treat aging tissues, stop tumor growth, and even create organs resistant to the passage of time. This is not yet the elixir of immortality, but the path to it may begin in the depths where a fish that survived the dinosaurs still swims. And if all this sounds like science fiction, it's only because we forget that nature has already done it. It has already created immortality. It's just hiding at the bottom.